Okay, delighted to say we've got former Premier League winner with Manchester United, Luke Chadwick, with us on the line. Good morning to you, Luke.
Good morning.
Thanks a million for taking the call. We're going to get into a range of different topics this morning, Luke, and I want to focus especially on the young players at Manchester United at the moment and how tough it might be to break through at Old Trafford. But first of all, just your general views on United's form at the moment. I know you're obviously a former teammate of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's been through a bit of a tough time, but the fans haven't turned against him just yet.
No, definitely. I think that's the beauty of being Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's such a legend at the club that he's always going to have that bit of time with the fans, and I think given time he will succeed at Manchester United. They've been a bit inconsistent recently, but you can see in some performances they're certainly moving in the right direction.
When you say given time he will succeed at Manchester United, what is that level of success you think he'll have?
I think it's good. Obviously, how Liverpool and Man City are, they are so, it's hard to say, but they are so far ahead of Man United at the minute. It's going to take not months, possibly years for them to catch up again, but I think time is can help a lot. Of you saw with Sir Alex Ferguson when he come in, it didn't work straight away, and I'm sure Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, given time, can build a team that can compete in years to come with Liverpool and Man City.
Right, okay. Do you think he has the same force of personality that perhaps Alex Ferguson had to keep going even through the tough early stages at Manchester United?
Yeah, I think he's definitely got that resilience to keep going. They're obviously completely different people to what Sir Alex Ferguson was, but I think he's still got that incredible resilience and tough nature to stick with it and get the desired results.
When you look at the young players at Manchester United at the moment, there's a fairly impressive crop. Obviously, it's going to take some time before we see how good they really are going to be and if they're going to win any medals for Manchester United. When you look at that crop of players compared to, say, the young players around Old Trafford during your time at the club under Sir Alex Ferguson, how do they shape up?
I think they're an incredibly gifted group of players. I think the main difference is from my sort of time at the club, when the young players were coming into the team, you were going into an exceptional world-class team that was head and shoulders above anyone else in the country. At the minute, it's completely different, and obviously Man United is still probably the biggest club in the world, and it's so hard for these young players to go in and make that immediate impact because the team they're going into is not as strong as it was back then.
It can work both ways, I guess. So you think that probably coming into a winning team is a bit easier despite probably the added pressure?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot more pressure at a club like Man United if you're not getting the results. So they're going into a real high-pressure situation where the results aren't going the right way as often as what you'd hope they would. And I think that makes it really hard without having maybe the real leaders on the pitch that Man United were blessed with back a fair few years ago.
Like, I can't imagine it was a pressure-free scenario for you going in to make your debut alongside someone like Roy Keane.
Yeah, there's still obviously pressure there, but you're going in to play and getting looked after by the best kept captain in the world, as it were. So I think it's a completely different situation now. Obviously, it's still football's football, but going into the Man United team now is a completely different kettle of fish. You're going into it with Gary Neville, Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, David Beckham.
When I ask you, if I was to ask you for one emotion to sum up those times for you at Manchester United, those early days when you do start off as a senior footballer for the biggest football club in the world, what would be that emotion you would choose?
Probably joy, really, or surprise that you're actually in that environment with them world-class players. It was a dream come true to have that opportunity to play there. So it was, I think as a real young player, when you first come in, you do have that little bit of freedom. You're quite fearless in them early days because it's so new to you, and you're obviously playing for such an incredible football club.
A sense of almost you've won the lottery, even. Is it that strong? Is it a sense of that this is an incredibly happy place for a footballer to be at, and you're just delighted with where you're at in life? Or like it sounds very positive, really, when you speak about Manchester United. Even reading different interviews you've done, you don't really have a bad word to say about your time at the club.
No, I never would. They've looked after me incredibly well from the moment I went there as a 14, 15-year-old boy. I don't think it was, I'd say, maybe winning the lottery because I'd been there for a lot of years as a schoolboy and then throughout my scholarship. So you sort of feel what it was at Man United. Then you sort of feel part of it as soon as you get there, but I certainly never expected to break through all the way into the first team. So like I say, it was an incredible experience and something that really shaped me for the rest of my life.
Is Old Trafford a tough stadium when you're a young player? Did they expect big things from young players immediately?
I think obviously there is a lot of expectation because you're playing for Man United. I think, again, for me, I was coming on for real small parts of a game, so I'm not sure the expectation was that huge. We were usually winning the games as well, so it's quite a nice place to come in and play. Obviously, to make that next step up, to be a regular in the team, which I never done, I think then the expectation grows and grows and grows as you move forward in your career.
What is the standard like from your teammates at that moment? Are they expecting big things from you as well? Are they more an arm around the shoulder sort of group? What was it like growing up in that team of Manchester United legends?
Oh, you had to be on it every day. It was an intense environment. Probably I think I've said it before, the training sessions were harder than the games because obviously you're training against the best players in the league and they expected your standards to be high every day. It was flat out every day in training. It was exhausting, that's for sure, coming into that. But it was, again, it shapes you moving forward for what I went into playing lower down in the league. It certainly helps you with the standards that are set and what's expected of you day in, day out.
Who was driving those standards in Manchester United training?
Roy Keane was the big one. He was the captain of the team, the leader of the team. He'd demand high standards every day, but it wasn't just him. It was the whole squad, the likes of Gary Neville, Paul Scholes, David Beckham, right? It was incredible role models to learn from at the football club. But if you weren't at their level, you were told, and rightly so, really.
Did you ever get told pretty bluntly by Roy Keane when you mentioned those sort of scenarios of not being up to the level, or perhaps just being offered on a day-to-day basis on training? It can easily happen. Did it ever come to blows with Roy Keane? Did he ever give you a piece of his mind?
Oh yeah, a few times on the training field and on the pitch. He'd tell you, and it's not always nice to hear. But again, it was he wanted to win. He wanted Man United to be the best club in the world. So if you weren't up for it, then it weren't the right place to be.
On a Sir Alex Ferguson level then, there was obviously a situation here where I think it's fair to say he took a bit of a liking to you, Luke. I'm not sure, is that something that you felt privately as well? I'm just speaking from the outside looking in.
Obviously, I think he liked everyone. I think if I weren't always the most gifted of players, but I'd always work as hard as I can, and I think football people appreciate that. So I think I worked as hard as I could, and at the end of the day, I just weren't at the standard. So I think he respected the fact that I was a hard-working young boy, and which everyone was, really. I think he liked everyone in the squad, really.
It's a very interesting career after that, after Manchester United, Luke, because you go to West Ham, you go to Stoke for a while, you go to Norwich, you go to MK Dons. Is there a particular moment from your career that you enjoyed playing football the most? And I mean on the pitch, I mean getting minutes, playing week in, week out. Is there a highlight from your playing days? I
think I had my biggest spell of being on the pitch and getting a lot of games at MK Dons. Obviously, I ended my career at Cambridge United, where I'm from, and I was a big fan of Cambridge United growing up as a boy. So probably my happiest spell was at the end of my career. My last ever game ended up being at Old Trafford in the FA Cup for Cambridge United. So it was a lovely way to end my footballing career.
And you've been involved with the Cambridge Academy?
Yeah, so I'm not as hands-on now, but I've spent a bit of time and still working part-time at the club, just doing a little bit of coaching and that sort of thing.
What are you noticing about young footballers now as opposed to when you were playing?
I think obviously the world's changed so much. Now it's so much full of social media and that, so there weren't so much as that when I was growing up. I think the players are more in tune to looking good and being the finished article maybe before they are, where the hard work's still there. But saying that, the standard has gone up so much. The young players you see today seem so gifted in what they do that the standard's going up, and I think it's just getting that right balance of the hard work and the talent that they've got.
And you mentioned there social media, you mentioned the off-pitch distractions that can clearly hamper some very young players. And I often wonder, like, it's very interesting from your vantage point, having come through the Manchester United Youth Academy, but then having also worked with the underage setup at a club like Cambridge United. If you were a young kid starting off right now, would you be advising them to get into the academy of a top club? Or realistically, would you be better off in the youth setup of a smaller club down the rungs in the English Football League to try and work your way towards getting a professional contract quicker and getting first-team football quicker?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer, really, because obviously what you get, the beauty of being at a top club is that you're playing with the best every day, as it were, the best of the best, and that's what helps improve you really quickly. Obviously, playing lower down the leagues, you might get that opportunity to get in a team and play, which Dele Alli obviously done at MK Dons, and what a fantastic career he looks set to have. But it's hard to say what is the best route to take, because if you're in the top clubs, you've got more opportunity of that national recognition, and you're playing against other countries and world-class players, which is obviously going to speed up your development. So there's no real answer to that, I don't think, which is a set of being the best way to go about your career.
Yeah, like it doesn't really leave a lot of room for late bloomers at the top clubs, Luke. Like we've spoken about this a lot on the show in recent years, and one of the topics that constantly comes up is that at the very top level in the academies, they will always earmark 2 or 3 players, and if you're not in that handful of players, you're not going to make it onto the under-23s team and then onto the first team. And really, if you're 17, 18 years old, that's not good enough, because as we've seen, you've mentioned even the likes of Dele Alli, who's made steady progression as he's got towards after he got to his 20s. Like, where does the room for manoeuvre come when it comes to late bloomers, for example, in these top-class academies?
Yeah, it's hard. I think it's more, if you are a late developer, like a smaller player and that sort of thing, you've got more opportunity at a bigger club where they've got the extra teams. Like you said, they've got the under-18s, the under-23s. At lower down clubs like Cambridge, there's only really an under-18s then into the first team. So for them late bloomers at the smaller clubs, it does make it really hard, and a lot of these players get lost to the game. It's such a big business now and such a cutthroat industry. I say just now, but it's probably always have been, that it's a tough life, and you need a hell of a lot of luck to get yourself into the game.
Just to finish up, Luke, it's Liverpool against Manchester United this weekend. I apologise for bringing up bad memories, but I am going to mention the 2000 game. I'm not sure, was it your only appearance against Liverpool? I think you ended up getting sent off in the game? Yeah,
that was just before Christmas. I remember we were chasing the game. I think we were 1-0 down. I think it was a Danny Murphy free kick, and somehow ended up last man with Vladimir Smitsa, and ended up obviously pulling him down and getting sent off. I remember walking to the dressing room absolutely scared as anything and wondering what was going to be said to me after the game, but it weren't too bad in the end. I think it was seen as something I had to do to pull him down, or it would have been 2-0, but it's not a great memory, that's for sure.
What was said to you?
The manager was fine. He sort of said that, I don't know why I ended up being the last man, but you had to do what you had to do, so it weren't, all the fear that I had in my mind wasn't too bad when he got back in the dressing room, but he weren't happy, because obviously it was never a nice feeling to get beat off Liverpool.
Luke, I must say, it seems like Roy Keane and Alex Ferguson were very nice to you.
Yeah, well, they were 2 fantastic people. I wouldn't have a bad word to say to anyone at the club. It's an incredible football club that, like I say, treats everyone so well.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way from your story. Luke, thank you very much for taking the call this morning. Really appreciate your time.
No worries at all.